And the final one, Bart, this is one that it has almost a feeling of maybe inevitability, like when last season or the season before Mac was previewed, wasn't it? And it was linked all like the build-up, and it happened and happened. Yeah. It seemed inevitable. Kerkez, Milos Kerkez, this story does just not go away. And as many journalists have now reported, 45 million suggested fee or what Bournemouth are looking for. It feels like we're almost in that negotiation time a little bit as well. I mean, it's not our money. I'll start you there, as you always say, before you give the line. It's not our money. But in terms of fullbacks, our record previously was Glenn Johnson for 17.5 million. We've always been quite frugal or look with value. And yes, you do look out when Trent comes through the academy. I get all that before anyone jumps on that element. But we've talked about Kerkez. We've talked about the raw attributes and certain things we pinpoint and we like. We also called out certain things that you're thinking, okay, there is a question mark really alongside that. We've also looked at profiles like a different one in Hato at Ajax. We looked at a different one in Carreras at Benfica. And maybe, just maybe, we thought, I'm not saying it's apples and oranges comparing them directly, but maybe there was things to like a bit more. It ain't our money, but it feels inevitable. Milos Kerkez, 45 million or somewhere up to that amount to Liverpool. What are you feeling about it when we're running these metrics now? Because I know there's a side coming.
Putting the money to one side, right? He's a young player. He's got physical attributes that suit the Premier League, right? He's playing in a semi-possession based side. I wouldn't say Bournemouth are in the same league as us, but they're certainly not down the bottom. West Ham, sorry, Hammers fans, but those kind of teams that low block and do the rest of the league. Bournemouth are a bit more tactically flexible, right? So some they can play low block, they can also play the rest of it. So I think it's important to note I think he's had a pretty good manager with him this season to guide him through and do the rest of it.
True.
So physically, I don't have any worry about him. That famous stars words, but he hasn't got to get it. He's not been injured. He's bomb proof and he's been doing up and down. He's very, very quick. He's physically alert. So that side of things, an improvement. If you look at, so remember these stats update, right? So this is a year rolling, right? So yeah. So when we first looked at these, his defensive stats were not as good as this, right? So he still doesn't win enough aerials, right?
True.
That 30th percentile for a fullback is low. But clearances and interceptions have got better. Blocks, not, that's still 50 percentile, let's give or take. Tackles, that could be because he's not asked to do that, or he's done the work by intercepting it before he gets to a tackle. So, okay. Between the boxes, he is a carrier. 86% percentile, which is you need 3 progressive carries a game. So that is touches in the penalty box, 73rd, progressive passes received, so he receives it high.
Which have nudged up, as you said. It's important to remember
They've all nudged up, right?
Yeah.
But his pass completion probably come down. 75% is a little bit low. But what's he doing in that box? These are all green. Yeah, if we're being kind, shot creating action, 70th percentile for a fullback. He's good. And shows starting to go forward. Assist 0.15, which is 70, that's 80th percentile. That's good. So there are some things. There's a lot more things to like about this profile than there was. Having said that, if we compare him to what we currently have, all right, bearing in mind, I mean, Robertson has improved, right? Because at the beginning of the season, he was pretty much, he was the weakest link by an absolute mile, right? Now I don't think he's the weakest link, but he's still not, he wouldn't go out and buy Robertson now, right? So there's some differences. Robertson still outperforms on nearly all the attacking metrics, all right? Bar actually one of the important ones, which is assists. So that's something to shout out.
Yeah.
Defensively, he does outperform Robertson on nearly all of them, bar what's that one in there? Aerials. Yeah. So apart from aerials, he outperforms Robertson. All right. Touches doesn't have as much as Robertson, but then Robertson is deeper now, right? Robertson would not have this bit of receiving progressive passes. He wouldn't have that because Robertson generally stays deep because he's too scared to get beat behind, right?
Yeah.
Too scared. He's been told to adapt tactically, and carry the outperformance Robertson. So that is one of the attributes we asked Robbo to do, which is carry the ball. Kerkez is now better than him at that, which he wasn't before, which is shown measures. So, yeah, what I'm trying to say is Kerkez is having a great season. He's not giving us the output that Robbo is, but defensively, he is now on par, if not better. So that's a good tick.
Yeah.
Compared with their other guy, though, because people talk about the actual Costas going, but Kerkez coming in is what seems to be the thing in the media, whether you agree with that or not.
Yeah.
Costas, again, outperforms him attacking-wise. Doesn't outperform progressive carries, but then we know that is in Costas' game. Costas is more of a pass than he is a carrier, which you can see here in some of the dribbles. But then defensively, Costas does better than him on 2 out of the 5 metrics. So, it's a bit, but you could see an upgrade there, because the other thing to note from Kerkez is you can see him developing and giving you what Robertson gives you attacking wise to still be better defensively. Costas is different to Robbo anyway in a profile, so maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want a bit more plug and play. One's out, you bring one in. So it's not my money. But I think there's no smoke with that fire. There's a hell of a lot of smoke coming out of this one. I could see us doing this. I still would prefer somebody else, but that's me. And I think if you want to get another left back in, who's got Premier League proven, all those kind of boxes, he's had a good season. He's probably not a bad buy. I still quite like a lot of Wolves, who's more experienced, cheaper. But that noise seems to have gone quiet on that one. So Kerkez, I can see why they're doing it. I would still have some reservations about his aerial ability, and they must be convinced that his output can upscale with more quality position that we're going to give him versus what he gets a form of. So sometimes you got to back that, guys.
It's interesting because I think it's fair to say, in summary, a lot of his metrics have nudged up. So the trend is going the right way, whereas the trend with the other two fullbacks, as we know, is diving off a cliff a little bit, with one especially. So the trend's the right way. And even we know he's quick. We don't have his exact speed. We know he's rapid. We've all seen it. There's no two ways about it. And when you look at the metrics that you can get from the Premier League, he's only second to Anthony Robinson at Fulham in open play crosses. And he's also only second to Robinson in sprints up and down. So like you say, he seems to be bomb-proof. He's quick. He's young. The assists has ticked up. That's important to say. Is it fair to say that, in summary, it isn't our money, of course, so there's that. And maybe in market terms, it seems the higher end a little bit. And, we probably look at value of other players, even though they're different types like Carreras and Hato. But in summary, to be fair to Kerkez, the metrics are trending up. In certain key physical ones in the Premier League, he's hitting the high numbers, really up there with left backs. Also, things like carry stand out, and his defensive element is getting better. Then maybe the question is, can he upscale the output? Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. And also, I think it's important, you actually mentioned it there, is there's a lot to be said for, like, £45 million will get you Hato, will get you Carreras, and will get you Kerkez. Right, the big advantage Kerkez has is he's already played in the Premier League. Right, that's a big. People overplay the Premier League tax. They overplay it, but it is important. It's different leagues. Eredivisie and Portugal are very different leagues defensively to come in and play in the Premier League. So if you're going to take a gamble on a younger or a up and coming fullback defender, I can see the justification if all things are equal in terms of price, why you might go for a lad who's had a season in the Premier League and where things are upticking the right way. So yeah, I could see why more now so than I did that Kerkez was improving. And also, to be fair to us, we did say when we last profiled him, we would relook if he started to improve and he could become a better deal.
Yeah.
At the time when we first looked at him, they weren't where they are now. They are where they are now in terms of metrics, and we can see that. So yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. So in terms of the money, well, it ain't ours. But in terms of the stats, they are trending up and the metrics are looking good for a player that is, has no injury record practically, is up there with the most sprints up and down that line, has pace. And also, if we think it looks like we are going to renew, which is great, Virgil van Dijk, to have a pacey fullback alongside him doesn't seem the worst thing in the world, does it? If Van Dijk can operate aerially as he does. Yeah. So that's something to consider as well. But there we go, ladies and gents. In terms of right fullback, if we're in bargain territory, Ratiu maybe, but we probably spent all the budget. In terms of Boubacar Kamara, Aston Villa, there's a lot of defensive metrics to like. You cannot dispute that at all. Does he give you enough on the ball for what Liverpool will be wanting? That's a question mark. Is he at the same level of the likes of Baleba and Wharton? Yes, they are different profiles. The levels don't really seem to match up, so it could come down to price, but we may be just being used for a wage renewal. We'll have to see. Kerkez at 45 million. As we said, if you'd asked us about 6 months ago when we first ran him, there's question marks. They've not all disappeared, but some of them are starting to be answered. Everything is upticking in the right way. Scalable output will still be the question. But 45 million, it ain't our money. And it certainly isn't. Well, it's about the same that a doctor in Mauritius earns, but that's a different discussion for a different day, isn't it? So all it leaves me to say as ever is, but for the analysis, the breakdown, and for looking at all three elements, it is much appreciated, pal.
No worries, anytime.